Well, I wanted to demonstrate this. I mentioned that the love is the depth of the cube. That's the true third dimension. And I want to illustrate that in such a way that would be easier to understand. For instance, say when we look at a picture of the ocean, we can see how beautiful it is, and it gives us a desire to go there. If we see a video of the ocean, then we see two dimensions of it. We can see the ocean, but we also see it moving. We hear the sounds, maybe the sounds of the people who are on the beach, different things like that. But it's not until we go there that we reach that third dimension, when we can actually jump into the middle of that ocean and feel it all around us, engulf us. And I always like to also compare that, the level of faith, by this. Try to think back, remember back when you were a child and you, on a really hot summer day, and you go to a cold pool and you jump in, and it just shocks you alive from the shock of the cold. And that's the way it should be in our faith. When we jump into the middle of the faith, when we go to the third dimension of faith, which is love, it should shock us to life, shock us into the faith of God. So I want to go from there to just a quick list, I guess, of the different powers of Christ. You know, he has the power to heal, the power to save, the power to pardon. His power is infinite. He has power over nature, the power to give life, to cast out demons, to give up his own life, to take his own life back as he chose. He has the power to raise the dead and look into the future. I often think of his strongest power and the greatest power, and I know many of you may not agree, but this is just my thought, that we all face temptations. He faced every temptation that we face, yet he was able to resist. We are not. To me, that's a phenomenal power. But I wanted to go from here to looking at his power of healing. That's our two we want to focus on today: the healing and the raising of the dead, and see where the two work together. So in Matthew 12:13, when he said to the man, "Stretch out your hand," and he stretched it out, and it was restored as whole as the other. In Matthew 15:28, then Jesus answered and said to her, "O woman, great is your faith. Let it be to you as you desire." And her daughter was healed from that very hour. The second was casting out demons. Matthew 12:28, but if I cast out demons by the Spirit of God, surely the kingdom of God has come upon you. And Matthew 17:26-20, so I brought him to your disciples, and they could not cure him. And then Jesus answered and said, O faithless, perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I bear with you? Bring him here to me. And Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of him, and the child was cured from that very hour. Then the disciples came to Jesus privately, and they said, why were we not able to cast it out? So Jesus said to them, because of your unbelief, for assuredly I say to you, if you had this faith as a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible to you. Let's go on to Mark 1:25-27. But Jesus rebuked him, saying, be quiet and come out of him. And when the unclean spirit had convulsed him and cried out with a loud voice, he came out of him. And then they were all amazed, so that they questioned among themselves, saying, what is this? What new doctrine is this? For with authority he commands even the unclean spirits, and they obey him. Even the demons believe and shudder. For with authority he commands even the demons, that they should obey. What is the point here? Belief. True belief means to be obedience to Christ's commands with no choice in the matter. 1 John 2:4 says, if you say you believe me and do not do as I command, you are a liar and the truth is not in you. The true test of faith or belief, is your willingness to obey Christ. You see, the demons knew Christ and knew exactly who he was. And so they had no choice but to obey. And if we truly know who Jesus is, if we truly believe that he is the Son of God and God in the flesh, we have no choice but to obey. That's your proof. That's the acid test. So how do we fulfill this requirement of total belief and never hear about 1 John 2:4? We must understand what must be done. Learn the word. Learn how to defend it. Learn how to truly love God's creation by the practice of agape love, putting others before yourself, putting God's will before yourself. But does this knowledge and following the guide put us there immediately? No, this is a continued study and a continued work until we do finally arrive. And we will arrive someday, but we must be patient and we must have that faith. And so I'm going to end the sermon today, and I'm going to share a story with you. And the name of the story is There Are Bridges All the Way. And it goes like this. A young girl, unaccustomed to traveling, was taking a train ride through the country, and it happened that in the course of the day, her train was obliged to cross 2 branches of a river and several wide streams. The water seen in advance always awakened doubts and fears in the child, and she did not understand how it could be safely crossed. She couldn't see the bridges from a distance. And as they drew near the river, however, a bridge appeared and furnished a way over. And 2 or 3 times the experience was repeated. And finally the child leaned back with a long breath of relief and confidence. Somebody has put bridges for us all along the way, she said in trusting content. And that is life. We fear so many evils, so many troubles, look darkly ahead at things sometimes, don't we? So many difficulties that seem insurmountable as they loom before us. But you know, when we get there, they all seem to go away. God takes care of those problems. And we find out God has built bridges for us all along the way. So I want to close with this. And I want to close in my typical way, and that's with Numbers 6:24 through 25. The Lord bless you and keep you, and the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. And I pray as you leave here today that you will leave with peace, an overwhelming love of God, and patience as we make our way through this difficult path, understanding that the difficulties we face is what helps us to grow. Now, Mitch's sermon at the park, I thought, he's a great preacher, and I think that what he preached today really adds to this sermon. So I'm going to post that for you today as soon as I can as well. So I thank you for your time, and may God be with you, and the lesson is yours.